Hello friends, Realtor Dad Dennis Lytle here again. After my last video, it dawned on me that here I was telling you that you could rent your place out and be a landlord. But I have spent 40 years being a landlord, and you possibly have not, and maybe would need or would appreciate some advice on being a landlord, because I think I've finally got this figured out. Okay, I'm going to do that today. Starting out with, you want to know how much to rent your place for, right? So you Google is your friend. You Google average rent prices for your area. If it's a one bedroom, Google one bedroom. Try to make it as specific as possible, but you can kind of get a general idea for what your rent should go for. That is, if you don't want to actually check out places that are for rent. Google will help you. So that's number one. Now you need to figure out what your monthly costs are. Now this is all in trying to figure out what you should be paying for a place, also what you should be renting it out for, okay? You're going to need to know what the HOA fee is, Homeowners Association. Most places, unless you have a house, if you're in a park of some type or a condo or something, you're going to need to know what the HOA policies and prices are, what the fee is every month. When I found my property, I put a search out there for a very low HOA, and I found one. They are out there. So what you need to figure as far as what you're going to be paying is, first of all, the HOA fee. Mine was $80 a month. You're also going to have to figure out, if you are purchasing this with a mortgage, you're going to have to figure out what that is going to cost each month. Your principal, your interest, your insurance, your taxes, all these things come into bearing. And whatever you figure that price is for the year, divide it by 12. That's what your costs are going to be. Maintenance also. You're going to have to set aside a certain amount for unforeseen problems. In air conditioning repair, plumbing repair, anything that you can't do yourself. Even if you can do it yourself, you're going to need to find out what it's going to cost to do. So how do you determine the value of a place that you're looking for investment? Now, this is not for living, but for an investment. Well, there's two different rules, they call it. One is the 1% rule. Now, this is something that you can do quickly in your head and figure out. You take the purchase price. 1% of that should be a ballpark figure for your rent. Okay, the place I purchased in Zephyr Hills was $32,500. 1% would be $325 a month. Well, I'm getting twice that. So I figure I'm in pretty good shape. Suppose you're buying something for $70,000. Well, you're going to need to at least get $700 a month. Okay, so that's the 1% rule. That's something you can do quickly in your head. It's not complete, but it's a ballpark guide. Really, the way to figure out your value of the house for investment is what they call the cap rate. Now this, you would need to take the rent that you would be getting each month. Multiply that by 11.5, not 12 months, because you have to assume there's going to be a couple months that you aren't going to have rent during that year. Maybe you transition from one tenant to the next. Just for safety's sake, make it 11.5. So you take the gross income per month, multiply that by 11.5. Now take your expenses, and that is your HOA, your principal, your interest, insurance, maintenance, anything you can think of that you're going to spend during the year. And you subtract your expenses. Now, the way I came up with that, I came up with, I think it was about, I get $750 a month. So it was about total income, subtract your expenses, divide that by the purchase price. Gross income, subtract expenses, divide by your total purchase price. And that should be between 8 and 12%. That's what you're looking for. So that's how you determine, very important, what you should be paying for this property if it's really going to work out for you. People smarter than me have come up with that scenario. Okay, you're going to want to rent to people, but you want to find the right tenant. You don't want to find people who's going to cause you trouble. Do a background check. There are many different background companies. The tenant does not need to give you your social security number. You will fill all the information out, their email. The company will email your tenant. Your tenant will give them their social security number, so they are protected. And then you will come back you will be sent the report. Now, I recommend to at least get a criminal background check, a financial check. You want to see if these people really can afford this place. But the things I'm looking for in a background check, I'm looking for evictions. I'm looking for any violent tendencies. I want to talk to their landlords. And I want to talk to their employers. I want to see if there are any history of late payments. Now, you notice I did not put in there bad credit. People who are renting probably have bad credit. I went through divorce. My credit went through the floor. But I'm always good on my payments. I never declared bankruptcy. I never got evicted. I never had a late payment in a rent. I have no violent tendencies. They can see that from the report. When I talk to a prospective tenant, before they give me their money, and you got to determine, you have to find out what it's going to cost you, put a few extra bucks in there for your time. I tell them, before they hand me their money, I say, I'm looking for things that are going to cause me trouble. I know you probably got bad credit. If you don't have bad credit, that's a plus, but you probably do. But I'm looking for anything that's going to cause me trouble. And I tell them, you might as well tell me that right now before you pay me money for a background check, and I find it out. Because if I find that out, I don't want you as a tenant. So tell me now. Well, they usually don't tell you. They think you're not going to find out, but you can find out. I only consider one tenant at a time. It seems the only fair thing. Why would you collect a background check fee from them, and try them all? You don't need to do that to them. Do one person at a time so they know you're not wasting their money. I think that's a fair scenario. Make sure you have a good lease, a good, thorough, legal lease. Now, you can put a lot of things in your lease that maybe won't hold up in a court of law, and maybe they will believe that they will hold up in a court of law, and it will help you. But you need to know what is legal and what's not legal. You can put it in the lease even if it's not legal, but it won't hold up. You need to know what your rights are. And in Florida, they protect the tenant, not the landlord. So be prepared for that. Get a good lease. I have a lease that I have fine-tuned and perfected over the years, and I'd be glad to share that with you. I want to get into that house once a month. Now, I'll say, I'm changing the air filters. That's on me. Or if I charge enough, I'm mowing the grass. Because you're going to have problems with that. They're not going to mow it. It's going to look bad. I try to find some way to enter that property once a month without saying, I'm inspecting your property. I just want to see what's going on there. I want to see if there's any damage, if it's becoming bug-ridden. I want to have eyes on once a month. Find a way of getting in there. Now, at the very end, think twice before you ever raise their rent. Are they a good tenant? Do you have to raise their rent? Because I can tell you this, having been a tenant and having been a landlord, once you tell them you're raising rent, it makes them start thinking. They start looking around. They start to see what their options are. They don't like that. Even if it's a minor amount, they don't like it, and they will check around. Are you willing to lose that tenant? for raising a rent. This is a good reason to charge the correct rent in the first place. I would recommend not raising the rent until you absolutely have to. Like I said, it gives them a chance to consider whether they want to stay here or not, and you don't want to put that in their mind. Here's one way of looking at it. If they do leave, you're probably talking a month at least, maybe 2 months of no income. Now, let's say you're going to raise the rent $100. How many months is it going to take you to recoup that at $100 to recoup that month or 2 months that you went without rent? If you've got a good tenant, do everything you can do to keep them there. I even sometimes will give them a little reduction in rent in Christmas just to show them goodwill. If I hear they're having a medical emergency and they're having problems, and I keep communication with my tenants, I ask them all the time how they're doing. I might want to throw them a bone, $25 or $50 off. You'd be surprised what goodwill that buys you. Okay, that is, at this point, all I can think of as far as being a good landlord and being safe, being a landlord who's going to have good tenants in your place, which is very important. My next video within a day or two is going to be talking about a good lease. I want to show you the lease I have and give you some good ideas there.